Thanks. Can you hear me okay? At the back? Yeah? Cool. Yeah, thank you. It's very nice to be here again after speaking at Scotland CSS. I'm going to go quite quickly because the goal of this talk is to highlight a bunch of Node.js projects. And rather than looking at the code and getting into intimate detail, we're going to sort of rush through because the goal really is to give you increased confidence with Node.js and make you aware that Node.js isn't just used for like build systems like Webpack or Gulp or Grunt, and maybe like hopefully inspire you with some other projects. Okay, so let's get into it. I'll spend like just a few minutes per project. We'll take a look at a bit of code, possibly, but definitely demos. Okay, and the first one, we'll start off with something quite simple, which is web scraping. I guess some people here have done some form of browser automation using maybe WebDriver or Puppeteer. So I'm going to hit little shortcut T, and that's going to open up Chromium in the background. And it happened so quickly we didn't even see it. So the goal of that little script that just ran was to go to ScotlandJS, cool, and navigate to schedule and find out what time and date is my talk. Okay, so it's basically traversing the DOM to extract this information and that time. Okay, the code isn't too, like, I don't want to say it is not too complicated because what's easy for you might not be easy for me, but like I would say it's fairly trivial. We require Puppeteer. Is that code okay at the back? Yeah, I guess you got the TVs as well. So we go to Puppeteer, we navigate to ScotlandJS/schedule, and then we execute some JavaScript within the context of that page using page.evaluate. And that allows us to basically run code like you would a bookmarklet. And there I'm traversing the DOM, extracting the bits of information that I want. And then I'm using something called chrononode, which was like a 1-minute Google search, which allows me to parse the time into like a structured data object. And the end result of that is I get Umar's conference talk is that, okay? So it wasn't to like show you, look at this amazing thing I can do. It was just to remind you that browser scraping is something that we can do. And if you want to research that more, you want to npm install Puppeteer or WebDriver, and there's a bunch of other tools as well. Moving on, we've got Markov chains. This is not my area at all. Like, I don't even know if you would classify it as machine learning. I've simply npm installed Markov chain, and that was it. Yeah, really. And let's look at the code first, and then we'll look at the demo after. I have done something kind of rudimentary, something very basic. I've copied and pasted the speaker bios and speaker talk descriptions and put it into a text file. And then, like, possibly you'll feel that this is also quite simple. I do feel that. You require Markov chain, you specify your text file, and then it's literally a case of quotes, a dot, and then you make an API call, which you can read about more in the documentation. The end result, if you've never heard of Markov chains, is it tries to generate new text based on some previous text, where the previous text is the speaker descriptions. Now this is going to be hit and miss, because this is real time. The text might be completely like nonsensical, and it won't make sense. Oh, this is nice. The impact of energy in turtles. So I'm assuming like a speaker here has some of those words in their title. One speaker here has referenced One Direction, and last night I got the most amazing thing where it was like, the impact of technology is One Direction, and it was great. Yeah, anyway, have a play around with that. A little challenge for yourself, something I'm working on also. If you want, you can take all of your WhatsApp or Gmail conversations, plug it into Markov chains, generate a bot, and then have conversations with someone, where that someone is a bot. So yeah, npm install Markov chain. If you're interested, go read about it as well. It's a really interesting concept. Alfred workflows, a little disclaimer. I do use Alfred. It is a paid tool, but don't feel that what I'm about to show is not applicable to you, because there are alternatives for Windows, WOX, W-O-X being one of them. There are also open source alternatives. It's just a very quick search away. So please do check that out. If you've never heard or used Alfred, the gist of it is you can type in little calculations in this bar. You get the result, I can also open up my files pretty quickly. So there's that. But what I wanted to show, because remember this is a Node.js talk, I wanted to show that we can write Node.js workflows for Alfred. Okay? And again, if you're not using Alfred, that's totally cool. We'll look at the code after. First of all, I'll show you the data that I am going to feed Alfred, and you'll see what this results in a second. So using Puppeteer, I scraped ScotlandJS.com, and I got all the organizer names and contact information. Well, the contact being the Twitter handle. And the reason is because at past conferences, there's been like an audiovisual person, a social media person, a travel person, and like every now and then I'll be, oh, I have to message them, but I forget their Twitter handle, so let me go and check. And it all gets messy. So we can help automate this with a workflow. So I'll type in Scott, and you see I've got ScotlandJS organizers. Okay, now if I hit space, it's seen that I don't necessarily have a query, so it's just going to show me all the applicable names, right? And I can scroll through. I've been messaging Peter, so maybe I want to say found the HDMI cable. Okay, and that will open up twitter.com with a pre-populated tweet. So it's just a little workflow which helps myself, and the hope is that that can maybe inspire you as well to do something that makes sense for you. Okay? And of course, if I know the name of the person, I can start typing that in, and yeah. In terms of the code, it's not too bad, I think. Someone called Sandre Soros, who makes like lots of amazing Node modules, he's written a module called Alfie. And that basically allows you to, the key thing to take away here is you have an input, which is the string that I entered in Alfred, and then you have output, which is a function. And that function, when you call it, you kind of pass a structured JSON object, and that JSON object gets turned into an Alfred menu, if I explained that okay. So yeah, that's how I made the little Twitter thing. By the way, I'll put all the code up on GitHub at some point, so please remind me on Twitter if you don't see it anytime soon. Moving on, Alfie is the Node module. There's also a few others that can help you with that. Moving on, we've got Bitbar. Again, this is something to do with Mac. If you're on Windows, there is an alternative. If you use Linux, there will be another alternative. But I have these little things in my, I think it's called a menu bar. This is the one I look at most. It's just the ping time to Google, because I connect to so many Wi-Fi networks. It's kind of nice. It's like for peace of mind, it's nice to see that. I know that Wi-Fi is stable. But the idea, or again, the thing to possibly inspire you is to like write your own. You can totally do that using Node.js. I've done one to show me the latest ScotlandJS tweets in my menu bar. I can click on one of them, and that will take me to the Twitter page. Okay. The code for this isn't too bad. By the way, the ping one, which I found on GitHub, that happens to be a bash script, but you don't have to use bash. You can use Node.js as well, which is what I've used for the ScotlandJS tweets. So you just write your regular Node.js code. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. Do whatever you want, but the key thing is right at the end. I see I'm requiring this node module bitbar. So right at the end, you call bitbar.create, and then you kind of construct using JSON the menus that you want to create and the text that you want to output in that menu bar. Oh, no, sorry. Okay, and one thing that's kind of interesting is that bitbar node module just creates this kind of textual representation. So it's that textual representation which bitbar is reading. So that's more of a side note. That's not necessary like to learn at all. Okay, moving on, we've got Bluetooth. This is just more of a reminder. It's not like, here's how you accomplish this. It's just a reminder that Node.js is capable of communicating to Bluetooth devices. So here, I've got it's a Flick device, F-L-I-C. They market it as something that you stick on your wall, and then you arrive home and you press it, and then music starts playing, for example. But you can also connect to this using Node.js. So Oh. Okay, so button connected. I'm transferring from the Node.js server, I'm transferring using WebSockets the messages to the web page. So that's how we're seeing the output. If I start pressing it, okay, it's got a few queued up messages, but press, there we go. You can't actually see me pressing it, can you? I could totally be faking the output and just be like, yeah, look at me pressing this button. But it does work, and if you're interested in playing around with this, the Node module that you care about is called Noble, N-O-B-L-E. Okay. These are kind of pricey, FLIC buttons. Physical web beacons, which you might have heard of, they're a bit more, I would say a bit more affordable. So give that a try. Noble is fully capable of scanning and possibly writing data to physical web beacons. Oh, and a little idea for you. You can totally do things where if the device is small enough, put it in your pocket and set a thing up where as you walk away from the laptop, your laptop locks its screen. You can do that because these emit like power bits of data. Yeah. Okay, so often when we think about Node.js capabilities, we think about input and output being textual. There's also like the idea of recording your screen, which you can do. And I do lots of this in my own time. I do lots of little screen recordings. So to give you a practical example, let's look at the code first, because it'll make a bit more sense. So I'm using something called DemoKit. Okay? And DemoKit allows you to write JSX, doesn't have to be JSX. And you might be able to figure out what's happening based upon the kind of declarative nature of this code. So recording.start, wait a little bit, scroll to a selector, click on a selector, and so on. Okay? So don't worry about studying this too much. It's just to give you a feel for what the code looks like. The actual result of this looks a little like this. So it pops open this Electron window with the web page nicely centered. It executes your instruction. So far this might seem very similar to Puppeteer, but I would say that DemoKit is a bit more suited for screen recordings and screencasting. And it makes things look a bit prettier with the animated mouse movements. And right at the end of that, we get this nice little MOV file, which contains exactly the recording that you just made, following the instructions that you provided. And use cases for this can really vary. If you're making a tutorial and you want to showcase a workflow, that's when you might use it. If you're a designer and you want to kind of show the product team what you've been working on, that might be a nicer way to show it rather than just sending a link to a web page. And DemoKit is the module that needs to be installed globally. Okay, moving on to third-party APIs. Again, it's like the individual demo I'm not showing is not like the key thing. It's a reminder that this is an idea of some of the things you can do in Node.js. Okay, I'm going to show something it's not all me. For most of these demos, I've integrated with other stuff on GitHub. So someone using a neural network, they made something where you could ask an IRC bot questions. It would then do an API search to Reddit. Reddit would respond with a bunch of answers. Those answers would go into a neural network, and it would try to tell you the answer to your question. And we'll try this. Again, it is Reddit, so I have to use my fixed bunch of questions because some of the answers are like way too inappropriate. Maybe how does interest work? Okay. I'm going to go to this web app that I made recently. How does interest work? Ask the question. Shouldn't take too long. Okay, time value of money. Money has a time-dependent value. If you don't think so, give me $500 and I'll give it back to you in a year. Interest is a scheme for measuring and compensating for the time value of money. So kind of interesting answers. They don't always answer your exact question, but still kind of interesting. And the thing that I wanted to show is I integrated this with Google Assistant. Now, I'm not going to say it because if you have the device, it's going to activate. But you know the OK Google thing? Yeah? You know what I'm talking about? They have an API for that. You can totally integrate your own workflows. It doesn't have to be something that you market to other people. You can just do it for yourself. So I've got a simulator here, so we can get a feel for what that looks like. And again, sorry, but I have to ask my own questions This is still real. You can try this yourself in your own time when I put this online. But for inappropriateness, I have to use the fixed questions.
Okay, let's get the test version of my test app.
Ask me any question like what is the meaning of life, or are cats intelligent?
How old are fossils?
Rock layers to determine relative age, radiometric dating to get a more specific date.
Oh, okay. And maybe to prove that it's working, does anyone want to shout a year? Because this is a safe question. Best movie from year. So give me it. 1991, was that?
Adam, it's the weirdest spelling of them all.
Great. Excellent. I've got no idea if that's a movie. I don't actually know what that means. But yeah, try this out yourself. I would recommend that you be 18 or over because, yeah, some of the answers are quite, yeah. app-amabot.wedeploy.io. If you search for my username on GitHub as well, you'll find stuff. Okay. Brain.js is the module that was able to make that work. Really, the real brains behind that, no pun intended with the word brain, the real brains behind that is someone else who I have no idea about. He or she built it, and then I've essentially extended it to work with the Google Assistant. So that was my only real contribution. And if you want to make your own Google Assistant type apps, Actions on Google is the Node module that will allow you to do that. Maybe we have enough time to scan the code. So it's just a simple Express app. Well, I say simple. Again, it depends. And I've required this Actions SDK app. And that comes from the Node module, Actions on Google. And this is where the magic happens. app.getRawInput. That just gives you the string that the user said in their, it would work on a mobile phone. I could do it now and it will actually work. It's fairly easy to get working. So when you ask your question, like what is the weather like, you will get that in this variable, raw input. And you can do whatever you like with it from that point on. Okay, moving on. Just I think it's two more demos. Glycemic levels, I don't know much about this, but to make a long story short, my friend who has diabetes put a needle in his arm. That needle is connected to an NFC tag. That NFC tag writes to his mobile phone something to do with the blood sugar levels. Those blood sugar levels were then uploaded to Dropbox. And this is where I came in. I did it for like a hack day. First, I'll show you the Dropbox data. And then I'll give you like a hint of the code. So the data lives in Dropbox, and it looks a little like this. Okay? But there's no reason, even we've got this massive CSV file, which if we were to do client-side would kind of not be pleasant for the user if you're on a low-end device. So Node.js can handle this wonderfully using streams. And to unzip it, we use something called zlib, which is actually built into Node, so you don't npm install it. We use fastCSV to parse that CSV file, and the resulting code is like download promise .pipe, and you pipe it into an unzipper, you pipe it into a CSV stream. Again, the code will be online for you to look at in a sec. The end result of this is I was able to make a little web app that displays his blood sugar levels. It's not so useful to see like large amounts of data, but for example, past 24 hours, this was 6 months ago, he stopped tracking after he saw what I built. It's kind of interesting. In the morning, see it's like completely low. And then like lunchtime, it's like, whoa, what's happening? And then I tried to put emojis for how I think he's feeling. I don't think he appreciated that. Okay, moving on. Actually to the last demo, visualizations and data scraping. Okay. If ever at your company, they say, hey, we have a hack day, please present something interesting to us. Have I got 2 more minutes? Is that okay? And let's say, for example, which is what happened at Shazam, you have screens scattered around and they're like, put something on the screen, put something interesting. Because normally it's the status of your build system and it's like, Who cares? So what I would suggest is you get creative. So I'm taking something that someone else has built and I'm extending it with Wikipedia data. Okay? Wikipedia have an API to get recent edits to Wikipedia articles. To actually connect to the API is like, wow, it's like literally 3 lines of code. It's amazing. And so those 3 lines of code, event source, which is built into client-side JavaScript, will allow you to connect to the API, and in a second, we will get API responses, just, again, 3 lines, from Wikipedia telling us every time someone edits an article. Okay. Now, there's an important concept that we have to understand to see how this works, the visualization that I'm going to show you. This is roughly, let me just undock. This is roughly what we get from Wikipedia. And the key part that we need to pay attention to is this user field. That user field will be an IP address if the user was anonymous. If the user was logged in, which represents like 85% of Wikipedia edits, that will be something like whatever Pixie Fairy 209, and it will be a string and you can't do anything with that and you don't get location data. If it's an IP address, you can pipe that IP address into any geocoding service, which is what I've done for like tens of thousands of tweets over the course of many days. And the best part about that is you get a latitude and a longitude. Okay, so what is the point of this? Well, it allows us to plot those lat longs onto a globe. And again, I didn't, like, this is amazing, I didn't make it. Someone at Mozilla did for Twitter. I'm simply extending it with Wikipedia edits. But it's something pretty to look at. I did do this when I was at Shazam as well. So every time you Shazammed a song, you'd see it pop up on that globe. Hopefully we can find an interesting edit. Like a lot of them don't make sense to me, so maybe, I don't know who this person is, but, so yeah. It looks like something, 29 years, 28 years. And by the way, Russia is fast, like, there is a lot going on in Russia, and I'm like, ooh, I felt like a detective. I was like, oh, what changes are people making? USA is also like very political. Yeah, I'm not going to try it. Like, some of them are really great. Oh, there was I found it on this globe. By the way, this is like the last minute, I promise. There's a melon called muskmelon, and someone edited this to say that a muskmelon is a product created by Elon Musk. And it was great. Like, I felt like such a detective. Here it is. So, can I compare it? Compare. Oh, yeah. Anyway, so you can have fun with that. I've put that on app-globe.redeploy.io. I've gone over time, so thank you very much. That's my Twitter.